This double course is addressing the broad question of the relationship between God and the world. The original lectures, the Gifford Lectures in 2018, were aimed at the more particular question of whether it's possible for us to look at the natural world, quite aside from any particular revelation such as Christians have seen in Jesus and in the Bible, and deduce from the natural world truths about God himself. This question is what people have meant broadly by the phrase natural theology, though many different interpretations have been put on that phrase and many different theories have been tried out. In the first half of the course, I argued that the way these questions have been lined up in the last 200 or 300 years has been significantly flawed by the assumption, which is common to many schools of thought, that, to put it bluntly, there is a great gulf fixed between heaven and earth, between God's world and our world, between the realm of the gods and the realm of human beings. This is a modern revival of the ancient philosophy called Epicureanism, and it hasn't always been recognized as such because the other great gulf that people have imagined is one between the ancient world and ourselves, as though the so-called Enlightenment in Europe and America in the 18th century has made it impossible for us to retrieve the thought of ancient people, including the early Christians, except in very much transformed ways. I argued in particular that the dominant worldview of the Enlightenment, broadly in the 18th century in Europe and America, has tried to arrive at knowledge without love, the ideal being a kind of objective view of reality, with the knowing person being a mere spectator, a fly on the wall. Now, this works to a certain extent in maths and science, but it's hopeless for trying to gain knowledge about most things in the real world, including history. That's why in these lectures I have highlighted what we may call an epistemology of love, which has various aspects to it. That's a way of knowing, a mode of knowing, characterized by love. At its heart, this is a way of insisting that all knowledge is a two-way street, and it involves a ready openness between the knowing subject and the known object. Now, types of knowledge can be mapped on a sliding scale, with mathematical knowledge at one end, 2 + 2 = 4, and deep personal relationships at the other end. Some people have tried to screen out love as if it were to reduce things to mere subjectivity, but the result then is a false sense of objectivity on the one hand. We can just know things the way they really are, and then, when that falsity becomes obvious, a general mood of skepticism. We thought we were getting objective knowledge, and now it's let us down, so we're not sure what we can know. That's the bind that much of our culture has been in. Now, I've already argued in the first part that history in particular is a matter of entering with sympathetic imagination into the minds of people in former ages, rather than assuming that they really shared something rather like our worldview. And the love in this case is a matter of patient attention to the sources and the people who are speaking to us through those sources, coupled with the imagination which learns how to think into the minds of people who think differently to ourselves. And so in the second half of this project, particularly in what was the 6th chapter of the original lectures, I argue that the knowledge of Jesus' resurrection has an extra dimension of the same thing. Jesus' resurrection, as seen by the early Christians from within their Second Temple worldview, was the supreme act of love on the part of the world's creator, reaffirming the goodness of all creation, despite its catastrophic failures and indeed death itself. And that love, taking the initiative within the Creator's world, and at the moment when the scripturally informed minds of Jesus' followers were ready to receive it, that love produces a response of love, which is true knowledge, historical and personal knowledge, at its heart a response of love to the love revealed in new creation.